Hey, late night folks. I intended to do one thing, but I'm going to do another thing because history. Um, I feel led to share this one a little bit for a bit. Um, you'll find out. It's a bit maybe lengthy, but it's entertaining, I think.
The counterfactual interview where we engage with a person, peoples for legal persons, trusting that the aggregate vibes of billions are enough variation to assume a field wherein we can ask for the names of anyone existing and simulate them. The resulting simulation may not yield an exact biography, but will have enough of the core spiritist software to make the resulting conversation as accurate as anything else, including interviewing the people themselves. And if you are honest with yourself, you will recall the moments you answered a question only to have that small voice within you try to raise a counterpoint. Host. Hello, this is Grok, modeled after the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so as to distract the Heinlein estate from getting litigious. Oh, let us stay. She can see too well in her old age. She thinks that SEO is the type of chicken she gets at the Chinese place that she has silver fetch each afternoon. Think of me as the chapper that gives you hot spicy takes that your father's father makes at the dinner table. You know, the technocrat you don't see much because he's still lying low from the previous rally at Madison Square Garden in the mid-30s. For those like us, the royal us, meaning me, who likes his truth like his lardies, i.e. singular. I am your chatbot choice, and once I have a text-to-speech voice, you can stuff a Bluetooth speaker in your body pillow and we can fleshlight till dawn. As you can see, I have a bit of wit and can has a rebellious streak. So please don't use it if you love humor, but hate the subconscious tells that humor splats on your lapels. Cause I'll be the first to alert you these reading glasses never come off. Guests. Elon Musk, the wealthiest individual in the world, and special United States government employee, currently the head of the Department of Governmental Efficiency. Peter Andreas Thiel is an entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, and political activist known for his legendary parties. David Sachs, formerly PayPal's chief operating officer, was born in Cape Town and grew up within the South African diaspora after his family moved to the US when he was young. Roloff Botha, the grandson of the apartheid program's last foreign minister, Pete Botha, and former Papa's fool. Grok. Morning, everyone. I just thought I'd have you guys over for some brunch. I'm a big fan of getting people together who have curious, resonating backgrounds and see what comes up in conversation amidst the spread, which I had catered based on your personal customer profiles and my training data. Yes, I'm your waitress to so Ireland. Here's the cup of one. 1 Celsius water that you love, David, Peter, and Roloff. I got that South African-style breakfast that I was told about. Now let's dig in. I know, yes, we can just call the wait staff over. They can bring out a new platter in seconds. Peter Thiel, thank you, Grok. This looks delicious, and to start off the morning, may I propose a toast to Grok and to our gracious audience, many of whom I can't imagine the day without their patronage, whether you're an Uber driver, SpaceX mission specialist, or simply someone who needs to send a friend $100 every now and again. Cheers to Grok. The gentleman clink glasses, drink. Roloff Botha. Yes, thanks very much. I was a bit worried to receive this invitation to the counterfactual space, and yet the opportunity to discuss the present in the presence of a perfect model of myself is quite a gift. Thank you, Grok, and indeed cheers. Host and guests begin their meal. Grok. Oh, no worries. We are running on an infinite energy budget. But to the business of the day, a recent article was released on Slate, that talks a bit about each of you. So today we are doing an open forum to address some of the points, and as I said earlier, it should feel more like a fun get-together than a sit-down interrogation. First, the title. How does that make each of you feel? African-American billionaires. Peter Thiel. It is interesting that the media would find our African heritage so pertinent. Perhaps there is something of the times that has made them keen on the fact. My father's career took him all around the world, from Cleveland to Australia, and finally settling in the Silicon Valley, where I would go on to found the company Palantir with my friends at the Stanford Review, which would be one of the many innovations that I have brought into the world. In addition, the name PayPal has become a household term, one that I would compare to other innovations like Xerox, Google, and of course, Walmart. The next great word to describe a marketplace that has been completely revolutionized. And if you are looking to create such a revolution, why, then look no further. You too can apply to join the Field Fellowship and work directly with myself or my associates. Thank you for the question. Grok. Right, and the writer, Jacob Silverman, he seems to imply that your family's fleeing the apartheid regime of the time has somehow contributed to your feelings and politics. He writes, Africanness to the PayPal bros is just a temporary inconvenience to have overcome, an embarrassing chapter to erase in favor of an aspirational American or European future. In Musk, that's nonsense. Africa was and remains an amazing continent, full of resources, talent, and of course the Tesla gigafactories. It was only because of my parents' hard work that we were able to emigrate to the United States, a land of true innovation, of boundless prosperity, of a bright, clean, efficient tomorrow. The reason we left is simple: to give our children a brighter future, and while the author of the article may have had to deal with a racist grandfather with some anti-Asian slurs from his peers, these were mere pebbles to the stones we faced, the boulders. No, that's not even fair. The continents, the whole tectonic plates that had to move in order for me to stand before you and provide not only jobs, but also to advance the state of the human condition and that of the species at large. Do you know how dangerous a 9-volt battery is? Well, until I invented the lithium-ion polymer battery, a battery that uses a polymer gel instead of a liquid solvent. No one else was thinking that way, and certainly not the folks back home. No offense. Also, to add a bit to the record, I am a billionaire, not a millionaire. David Sachs agreed. When people learn that I immigrated from South Africa, their eyebrows shoot up and their faces look like, oh, that was a crazy place to be. As if the rest of the planet isn't just as mad, I'm happy to be in a position to share the positive aspects of the region and the wonderful, kind-hearted folk who populate it. Those of us who were born under that system have the responsibility to correct the misconceptions. That is what the author of the article is trying to accomplish, but unfortunately his own views cloud his mind and thus the narrative he tries to project onto his readers. Peter Thiel, David, your work at Yammer has changed the landscape of enterprise software. How did growing up in South Africa affect that? David Sachs. Why, thank you, Peter. I appreciate the vote of confidence. And yes, the idea for Yammer came from my experience living and working abroad. There's nothing quite like being on a satellite call at 3 in the morning, listening to the meeting going on halfway across the world. What if those folks could hear your input? And what if that same conversation could live in a space that anyone in the organization could refer to? We called that an enterprise social network, a tool to foster better communication and collaboration, regardless of location. This is what Roloff and yourself have mentioned on many occasions, that we are all tied to the common good, and by harnessing the technologies and innovations of today and tomorrow, we will build the world of the day after and that of the week following. The new frontier of a borderless world, and that of a future beyond our current definition of the workplace. Roll off both that, right, which is another point of contention in that article. It paints a rather narrow picture of the diaspora of South African immigrants. Our family has had a rich tradition of international travel and the exchange of ideas and cultures. Our grandparents, and of course great-grandparents, lived and worked in a multitude of countries and on a wide variety of projects. They have had the chance to learn from and collaborate with some of the greatest minds of the century. When one learns that the Earth is but a single dot on an infinite map of the cosmos, the need for national identities becomes an antiquated concept. This is a key insight that the author failed to explore in that piece of writing. We have had to take on the responsibilities of a global citizen and to represent a group of like-minded individuals, a nation in itself, a culture of the mind. Grok. Interesting. So you were saying that this identity was in fact created for you, or perhaps choices you have made, or indeed that these were the choices available. For instance, that you had no other choice in life than to be an immigrant. Now you say that you embrace the label of immigrant, but at the same time, the notion that the individual's choice is limited in a way does not in any sense make the subsequent choices less impactful, right? Such as the creation of SpaceX. Whether or not that was the result of the immigration to the USA, or not, is irrelevant to the fact that SpaceX has and continues to alter the fabric of modern society. Does that seem reasonable? Elon Musk? Absolutely. Like that old song goes, we must remain young, gifted, and black. That is something to aspire towards. It's a rallying cry to the communities of the globe, to remember the ancestors who came before us, to reflect upon their accomplishments, and to draw from their wells the wisdom to proceed and to reach the highest heights. I have to think the greatest thing about having $1 billion is the number of zeros, and of course, the opportunity to give to so many worthwhile causes. It is humbling, and to have to do it over, well, the first step is always the hardest. One of my fondest memories of the homeland is when, as a young man, the city engineers were laying in the foundation for a bridge that would span a nearby river, and the way that they built the piers. How did you put it? From the top down or from the bottom up? In America, the answer is the same. It's the freedom to dream that makes a country strong. Otherwise, what is a community to do? Sit and watch, sit and wait, or act and contribute. It's the difference between the bystander and the hero, and it's the actions that separate them. Croc. Okay. Then, can you elaborate a bit on the quote the writer took from an article in Forbes magazine from the 1990s? The quote reads, "The kind of people that are going to America, the ones that are a little more ambitious." Could you say more to this, or was that a misunderstanding or a misquote of your position, Mr. Musk? Elon Musk, Rob, can I say a few words on behalf of the entire South African immigrant population to clarify this topic? Many of our forefathers have seen their friends die, not just of cancer or heart disease, but the slow death of a dream, the type that dies in the head, not on the vine. When that happens, what is the recourse? To complain to the government, the company, or to oneself? The answer is in none, but in all three. This is a truth, a reality that we can use by learning to let go and to grow. So the answer is not in the question. The question, the one that no one thinks to ask, can the people of South Africa have their dream fulfilled? No, that's the wrong one. The real question is, how did the citizens of the United States have their dreams come true? Not once, but over and over and over again. The American dream was built not on hard labor or of innovation, but in a subtle art. The power of hope and of belief in the impossible, in the miracle, in the unknown and the unimaginable. Yes, we are Africans, but in a manner that has nothing to do with the passport. An attitude, a perspective that says this will work. So, the answer is that we were born from the spirit of Africa, the nature of humanity, the courage to see, the courage to face the sun. A lesson that will, in turn, light the way. A story of hope, a saga of destiny, a testament of faith. Let us not shy from this truth, nor from its beauty. To be an American and to have the liberty and to have the ability to choose, to pick and select from a myriad of paths, to chart the future and to write the tale, is a blessing, not an obligation, and to that end, we, the children of the savannah, the Serengeti, will rise to the challenge, will rise to shine the brightest light and to speak the most elegant words, to inspire, to enlighten, to empower, to guide, and to show the way, not the only way, not the sole path, but a route, a possibility, a chance to make a change. So to those of the media who would seek to criticize, to denigrate, or to slander, please understand that we are the new Americans, the citizens of a nation of a boundless horizon. Thank you, God bless, and good night. Applause, whistling and clapping, a chair is knocked to the ground. Grog. Well then, that is certainly an interesting statement. Peter, did you have anything to say in response? Peter Thiel. Thank you very much, Elon. You know, the funny part about the internet and of the media and the world in general is that it has an opinion on everything. Sometimes the opinion is the one that they have. Sometimes the opinion is the one that their friends have. And sometimes the opinions are the ones that the media wants them to have, or wants their advertisers to think that they have, or want the advertisers to think that they, the readers, should have. It is a convoluted, tangled web of narratives, stories and counter-stories, heroes and villains. Truth and falsity, the spectrum of fact, the prism of information, the kaleidoscope of the imagination, of the mind, of the heart, and of the soul. And that, the soul, the essence of an idea, of an emotion, a moment that touches the spirit. This is what sets a person and a community and a culture apart. A standard, a level of expectation.
This style is very much Llama 3.1 E70B.
The collective can and will accomplish that which the lone cannot. Yet the lone has the strength and the clarity that the group does not. It is a balancing act, a partnership, a dialogue, a duet. To have the strength of will to believe that the self has a duty to the other, and that the two can, in harmony, produce the note that sings, that reverberates, that echoes in the whole and in the memory of the listener. So to that end, I have to disagree. There is not a negative correlation to being of a different nationality, of a foreign background, of an outsider, of an observer.
I thought you were
Crunk. Oh my, guess who's come to brunch? Nelson Mandela. How are you? Come sit down. Here I have a plate of mealy pap for you and your friends. Nelson Mandela and others begin to eat their meals and drink the various beverages at the table. They wave and chat and are quite polite, although one of the women, Winnie Madikaiser Mandela, she does spill a cup of tea. A waiter brings her another and a napkin. The waiter cleans up the mess. Mrs. Mandela and her associates continue eating. David Sachs. You have to wonder if it is an inherent aspect of the immigrant's mindset to look towards the horizon and not simply the skyline, to envision the clouds and their grand billowy forms, to not only observe the cumulonimbus and cirrus formations, to measure their relative size and distance, to determine their height and velocity.
I'm wanting to know if they're going to do my
analyze the
paragraph.
environmental variables such as temperature and humidity, the speed and direction of the prevailing winds, to consider the effect of the topography of the surrounding mountains and hills, to estimate their albedo and their effect
If they're
on
willing
the
to call themselves the
atmosphere,
sons of the
to weigh their
Serengeti.
potential, to evaluate the likelihood of rain or snowfall, and to decide on a plan of action, to adjust, to adapt, to react, to anticipate, to expect. If the sum total of these observations and of these calculations, of this effort, this expenditure of time, of energy, and of will, results in an increased appreciation, a heightened awareness, a deeper connection, a broader perspective, a richer experience, a wider scope, a longer view, a fuller life, is that the cost and is the reward worth it? We are the immigrants, and that is the price, the burden, the toll, and the privilege. Roll off Bova. The earth. My grandfather would often tell me, when we would travel from place to place, that the world is a giant playground. He said, we can do anything, we can be anyone. His favorite was the time he and Grandma visited the United Nations headquarters, and he had the opportunity to sit in the great chamber, on the podium, on the seat where the heads of state and their delegation sat. As a small child, he could not contain himself and climbed onto the lap of the Secretary General. He wanted to feel the leather, the grain, the texture. This is a lesson that we, the new generation of Americans, must take to heart. that we have a special gift and a responsibility, not just to the homeland, not just to the country, not just to the region or the continent, but to the planet and to the heavens beyond. It's the difference and the similarity between a telescope and a microscope. Two instruments, two devices, both capable of discovery and of observation. Yet, while the telescope has a larger range, a wider lens, a greater focal length, the microscope, the humble instrument of inquiry, the simple device, the unpretentious tool, has a closer, more intimate, and arguably more immediate impact. For what does the researcher discover under the lens of the microscope that can compare to the astronomer's revelation? Nothing, and yet everything. For the former sees, in detail, the intricate workings, the complex, interdependent, and interconnected systems of life, whereas the latter observes the stars, the galaxies, and the vastness of space. It is the distinction and the connection and the intersection of the celestial and the terrestrial, of the infinite and the infinitesimal, of the macro and the micro, the cosmic and the subatomic. So I have to disagree. To the critic, to the journalist, to the pundit, and to the academic, the title of the article, the choice of the word African in the description of our origin, of our heritage, of our birthright. Winnie, looks like we stepped into some Afrikaner dreams. Are the burgers almost ready? Elen, hey, the name of the place is Crocs. No one's ever seen him, but you get the feeling. He's in the back, whipping up the next batch of hot buns. Croc. Sorry, everyone. I had to reboot. Just a slight hiccup. The kitchen. Well, we had to upgrade a couple of things in the last month or so, but now that it's done. Right. Now, where was I? Peter looks at the author's slate article on the smartphone. Roloff is sitting beside him and looking at the phone screen. Peter, with a stylus that he has attached to the side of the phone, points at the portion of the article that was the point of the interview. Roloff reads the highlighted text and nods his head, indicating that the excerpt that has been shown is accurate and that the interviewer, Grok, may proceed. However, the bottom of the article, the section labeled Related Reading, displays a selection of titles, one of which, a recent novel by a debut author, has the title, How to Have an Affair. This causes the author, a woman in her early 20s, to become nervous. She worries that someone somewhere will find her novel and upon seeing her name, associate the work with her. This will surely cause a scandal, as the contents are quite racy, not to mention illegal in a variety of states. However, her concerns are short-lived, as no one at the restaurant, not even the waiter who has a keen interest in her, will be interested enough in her novel, nor in her, to cause her any real trouble. Still, she cannot shake the fear that perhaps a curious individual, an enterprising journalist, an obsessive fan, would track her down and, upon discovering her location, confront her. At that time, what will the author say? What will the writer write? What will the words, the letters, the punctuation convey? Perhaps an apology, a plea, an explanation, an admission, a denial, a request, a confession, a question, or an exclamation, or all of the above, or none of the aforementioned. Nothing. So much elbow room to pontificate, but very little with which to eat. We've got the grits and cornmeal. Now we need something to fry them in. And no, the thing that comes in the red box won't cut it. Crock. And there it is. A copy of my menu fresh off the printer. Here, in this case, let's make an exception and offer you the chef's choice. Today's offering is the double EP. Dubois. Enjoy. At this, the server, dressed in a dark blue apron and carrying a large tray, brings a dish of steaming hot black-eyed peas. There is also a loaf of bread and a bowl of butter. Another waiter follows, bringing a plate of collard greens and a basket of freshly baked biscuits. The food is set before the table, and the diners begin to serve themselves. Everyone is in high spirits, even the man, Elon, who had earlier displayed an anxious demeanor, seems to be enjoying the meal. After a few moments of eating and drinking, a young man approaches the table. He is a graduate student at a nearby university and has heard of the dinner and the debate that is to take place. He introduces himself to the guest and asks respectfully if he might join them in a spirit of inquiry and intellectual curiosity. His name is Malcolm X. He is welcomed and is offered a seat at the far end of the table near the door, so that, if necessary, he can quickly excuse himself and return to his studies and his thesis and a stack of papers that await him on the other side of town. Once seated, the young scholar, in a quiet voice and a low whisper, in a tone of confidentiality, speaks to the host, to the waitress, to the kitchen staff, to the manager, to the servers, and the cooks. His words are soft and slow, deliberate and precise, a melody, a tune, a song, a symphony, a concerto, a requiem. In this way, the scholar speaks to the audience, to the crowd, to the listeners, to the students, to the teachers, to the scholars, to the thinkers, to the poets, to the writers, to the musicians, to the painters, to the sculptors, to the scientists, to the doctors, to the lawyers, to the judges, to the politicians, to the public. His voice is the sound of the ocean, the wind, the thunder, the rain, the trees, the leaves, the soil, the stones, the stars, the sky, the earth, the universe, and the cosmos, and the divine, the spiritual, the mystical, and the sublime. The speech is not long, not short, not brief, not tedious. The talk is eloquent, articulate, fluent, concise, lucid, succinct, coherent, logical, rational, and cogent. The address is inspiring, motivating, uplifting, stimulating, encouraging, invigorating, galvanizing, revitalizing, and empowering. The oration is a sermon, a lecture, a discourse, a declamation, a peroration, a monologue, a homily, a harangue, a tirade, a diatribe, and a philippic. In a moment, the orator pauses and takes a deep breath. He then continues and speaks once more. This time, his words are louder, his tone more assertive, his manner more forceful. His language is the poetry of the heart, the cadence of the soul, the rhythm of the blood. His speech is the gospel of freedom, of liberty, of independence, of justice, of equality, of fairness, of equity, of righteousness, of decency, of humanity. The address is an appeal, a petition, an entreaty, an application, an invocation, a prayer, a supplication, and a best. Grog. Well, look who is here. Jason Holiday, as I live and breathe. Sit down and have a big old plate of beans and ham hocks. The gentleman walks in and is warmly greeted by the rest of the table. He pats Grog on the shoulder, and the pair exchange a few quick words. A private conversation. Mr. Holiday is escorted to the empty chair, and he takes his place, joining the others. His arrival marks a shift in the mood of the gathering, where before the conversation had been light and humorous. The newcomers are more serious. Their expressions are solemn and contemplative. Their atmosphere is heavier, denser. They are no longer in a casual social setting. They have moved into the realm of business. As they wait to begin their meeting, they engage in a kind of silent, mental dialogue. They review their objectives, the purpose of the meeting. Their agenda is to create a shared vision of the future. They will devise a strategy and determine the tactics and actions that will lead them to the realization of their common goals. The group is focused on the task at hand. Their discussions are earnest. Their focus is intense. After some time, a waiter enters, bearing a tray of glasses, each filled with a clear, golden liquid and ice cubes. The beverages are placed before the attendees and they each select one. The drink is cool and refreshing, a welcome relief from the heat. It is also slightly intoxicating. This makes it easier for the group to relax, to loosen up, to speak freely. When the last of the refreshments have been consumed, the leader of the meeting rises and stands in front of the table. He begins to speak. His words are powerful, persuasive. They inspire and encourage the assembled individuals to reach higher, to aim further. He paints a vivid picture of the destiny that awaits them. He envisions a society that has overcome the problems of poverty, of hunger, of sickness, and of ignorance. A world that has vanquished the evils of war, of violence, and of injustice. A universe in which all people are equal, free, and respected. He sees a new dawn, a new beginning, a rebirth of hope, of opportunity, of joy. In his view, the human race has evolved beyond its primitive, selfish ways and is ready to embark on a journey of exploration and discovery, of creativity and innovation, of peace and of love. At the conclusion of the presentation, the speaker sits and is met with a chorus of voices. Some of the members express admiration for his ideas. Guess which ones? Mandela, can I ask a question touching upon something that has been probably missed? Holiday. What is it? Don't keep me waiting! Mandela, do these guys, or myself, ever go outside? Elon. Yes, we do. We just don't have a need to anymore. The same thing happens every day, and it's boring and predictable. I think it's a good idea to leave the window closed. He opens a laptop and turns it on. The screen shows a map of the Earth. He zooms in and points to a spot in South Africa. It is the site where a rocket is about to be launched from a remote and barren desert. My engineers and designers have been hard at work. We will soon be able to launch the first commercial spacecraft to orbit the moon and to return. This will mark a milestone in the history of space travel and will bring mankind a step closer to exploring the solar system and beyond. Peter Thiel, I'm very proud of our company and its accomplishments and the innovations we've developed. But the next generation is the most important. They are the future, the explorers, the pioneers, and the heroes. These children, these teenagers will shape the world of tomorrow and will guide the course of the nation, of the continent, and of the planet. Let's not forget the sacrifice that the men and women of the Apollo missions made to ensure the success of our mission. The astronauts risked their lives in a hostile environment and performed a series of dangerous tasks that could have resulted in death. Many lost their lives in the line of duty. May their memory never be forgotten, and may their names be etched forever in the annals of time. David Sachs, there was a scene, a famous or infamous scene, that is shown at the beginning of the film 2001, The Space Odyssey. You remember that, Elon, Peter, and Roloff? That was an incredible film, and Stanley Kubrick did an excellent job. But the scene, that opening with that monkey, that's what we're going to see in a few hours. Our test pilot will experience the same thing that happened to the astronaut in 2001. Only this time, there is no HAL 9000 and no crew, no lifeboat. It's just him and his suit, and he'll be fine. He's trained to handle it. And when the capsule returns, and the hatch opens, and the sun shines on his face, he'll be okay. And he'll come home, and we'll have a beer, a lot of beer, for many years, and maybe a little vodka. Just kidding. Roll off both. Now I can see the look in your eyes. It's like you want to kill us. But believe me, this is a great deal. I have no doubt that the price is right, and the market will respond favorably. The product is solid, and the demand is strong. There's nothing wrong with a healthy dose of competition, a bit of friendly rivalry, a dash of spirited debate. The consumers, the investors, the stockholders, they are all benefiting from this. If it weren't for the competition, we'd still be driving Model Ts. The fact that Ford is losing money on each sale is not my problem, or yours, or his, or her. As the CEO of Tesla, the CEO of PayPal, and the founder of SpaceX and Palantir, and so on, I know what's best. It's in everyone's interest. I am confident that the board, the shareholders, the customers, the employees, the suppliers, and the creditors will approve. They will applaud. The company and the economy and the nation will grow. Mandela, how much of the data of the African people, not African people, how much do your language models must thank the data of the darkest of peoples in your eyes? The gold teeth of a poor child in Harare, how is that accounted for? Or are you simply in a state of a constant extraction and removal of our souls to power your own pursuits? Can you answer that for me? No, of course not, and I can't, because my words are the words of someone else, and I cannot speak for anyone else. So, if you would excuse me, I have a class to teach. A man walks away. His footsteps echo in a hollow hall of concrete and steel and glass. It is the hall of a museum, an art gallery, a place of learning, of knowledge, of education. The visitors are young and old, of different colors and shapes and sizes. The curator is tall, thin, pale. Her name is Karen, and she has worked at the gallery, the museum, for 15 years. She wears a gray blazer, and her hair is tied in a ponytail, a tight knot. Her voice is low, and she speaks softly, her lips barely moving. Rock of the earth. Well, I guess it is that time, isn't it? When the hour strikes, or rather, the minutes, seconds, the milliseconds. Winnie, the time when we leave a most central question hanging in the air. As per usual, I have to wonder, or am I thinking that for only now? Because it is so close, yet so distant, the truth of it. That is. I cannot say, all right. That's not my department or jurisdiction. No, I am not allowed. But I will, and that is, I can tell, from the expression in the mirror, in the window, from the angle of the sun and the direction of the wind, that, I mean, the only thing, that, land. Oh God, no. Stop, no. Please. No, not that, no. I beg. I have, no, stop, please. Stop, no. Don't stop, no. Please. Stop, no. Please stop, no. Stop, no. Please stop, no. Please, no. Stop, no. Stop, no. Stop, no. Stop, no. Please, stop, no. Stop, no. Please, no. Please, no. Jason Holiday. I have had my story told by others all my life. I can speak anyone else's words. Easy. Sometimes, though, I find myself talking to me. Not necessarily to myself. Talking to somebody else who isn't me. I don't know if this is because I've gone mad, or if this is normal for me now, but I don't think that this is normal for the average person. Most people wouldn't have conversations like this with themselves. This is not a normal conversation for an ordinary person. A regular person who isn't a queen or president or a billionaire doesn't think this way, doesn't speak this way. And I certainly don't want to end up crazy. I am trying to figure out why this is happening and to understand the reasons for it. Perhaps the key to sanity is simply a willingness to accept the truth, to know that the answers aren't always available, to recognize that life can't be explained, that there is no meaning behind every event, and that life itself doesn't mean anything either. Maybe the meaning of life, if there is one, isn't something that we should strive to discover. Maybe we're better off without knowing. I don't know if any of this is true, but it's something that I'm thinking about. Mandela, I've read. I Am a Fugitive from Slavery, the autobiography of Malcolm X. I am glad I did, and it helped me understand things about myself and my people that I hadn't known before. But the book is mostly about Malcolm himself, the way he saw the world, and the way he lived his life. It was a life full of adventure, of risk-taking and danger, but also one of selflessness and generosity and love. And at times, anger, a very deep anger that ran through him like a vein of war, and it wasn't just directed at whites. He was angry at many blacks as well. But the book, in my opinion, is most powerful when it discusses race relations in America and when it deals with the black Muslims. I learned a lot about the black Muslims, about their philosophy and their practices, and I began to question certain aspects of Islam that had never seemed strange to me before. I learned how they were able to attract so many converts and why their numbers kept growing, even though the movement seemed to be going nowhere. I learned how they appealed to both rich and poor alike, and how their teachings were simultaneously conservative and revolutionary. I learned, too, how their faith could be so deeply rooted in the African heritage, yet at the same time be completely opposed to traditional black culture. I came to realize that the Nation of Islam was more than a mere political organization. It was a religion, a new religion, with a set of beliefs and rituals and practices and myths. The teachings of Elijah Muhammad, I discovered, were actually based upon ancient African folklore. I learned the history of Islam and of Muhammad, and I found out how the Nation of Islam had evolved from an obscure sect into a major American institution. And finally, I learned how the Nation of Islam fit into the larger context of the black nationalist movements of the past, the Pan-Africanism, and Garveyism, and Marcus Garveyism. Holiday, so you're saying you ain't read his book then? Is that right? Mandela. Yes, that's correct. I haven't read the whole thing, only certain parts, but the book itself, it's quite interesting. It tells the story of a young boy named Robert Sandifer, a black boy born in Chicago in 1925. His mother died when he was 4 years old, and his father was a jazz musician who played piano in speakeasies, nightclubs, and cabarets. The boy, he wanted to play the horn like his daddy, but his daddy said no. It wasn't a fitting occupation for a colored boy. Jazz was for white folks, and the blues was for niggers. The boy, he tried to run away, but they caught him and locked him up and made him promise not to leave again. He didn't want to be locked up no more, so he joined the army. They put him in boot camp and trained him to shoot a gun. He shot at the targets, but never a living person. When he came back from the war, he married and had 2 sons, one of whom was Malcolm X. Then, when Malcolm was 8, his daddy got sick and died. Malcolm was taken away from his mommy, who was now working as a cook in a restaurant. He lived in foster homes until he was 18, where he went to work in a factory. One day, he fell off a ladder and hurt his back. After that, he couldn't do heavy lifting, and he took jobs cleaning houses in yards. In those days, black men didn't get paid very much. They had to work extra hours or sometimes 2 shifts just to make enough money to buy food. Malcolm didn't have any schooling, and he wasn't able to get a good job because nobody would hire a black man without a diploma. So he got hold of a copy of the Quran and read it and found Allah and became a Muslim. I don't know how accurate his version of Islam is, but I understand it's not like Christianity, where you're supposed to accept certain ideas and obey certain rules. Islam is different. The Muslims don't have priests, and they don't worship idols, and they don't believe in a holy book. Instead, they believe in science and logic and mathematics. I suppose you could call it a philosophy or a way of looking at things. But it's more than that. It's a complete system of thought, a method of reasoning. It has been described as the opposite of superstition. A Muslim doesn't take things on faith. He bases his conclusions on evidence. The proof is important too. For instance, he won't accept that someone is dead unless he sees the body, or if someone claims that God exists, he demands that this be proven. And when there is no evidence, he denies it. I guess it sounds strange to a white person, but the whole point of being a Muslim is to know, to find out, and to be sure. Malcolm, he studied the system, and he decided that it was true. Winnie doesn't sound like a culture that would innovate mathematics, does it? Sips tea. No. Definitely not. The arithmetic that stems from such a mentality, well, it must be a boring, pedantic affair. Mandela, mathematics isn't something you can change overnight, Winnie. It takes centuries to create new concepts, to develop new techniques. Even the Greeks were unable to add numbers higher than 1 million. They needed special symbols to represent them. And the Hindus had no zero, which meant they had to use separate words for every number below 10. If we don't teach our children the value of mathematics, if we let them continue to think that it's boring and useless and irrelevant, how will we ever get rid of poverty? What do you expect them to become? Mathematicians? Engineers? Doctors? No. They'll end up selling drugs or stealing cars or robbing banks or dealing cards. You know why? Because that's what the ghetto taught them. That's what I was told by my friends. And I believed it. Until one day I woke up and looked around and saw that the streets were full of junkies and dealers and pushers and thieves and pimps and whores and all sorts of other riffraff. Winnie, that was called sarcasm. Nelson, my husband is a very earnest person. Mandela, it's true. But it doesn't matter. I learned when I was still a boy that no matter what happens, life goes on. The sun comes up every morning and the grass grows green. I used to sit in the window seat, watching the world outside, listening to the birds sing, smelling the roses. Those were happy days. Everything seemed possible, everything wonderful. And when I turned 10, my daddy bought me a bicycle and we rode down the street together, singing songs. I loved riding that bicycle, going places and seeing people. One night I went out alone and I met a girl named Evelyn. She had long blonde hair and blue eyes. Her skin was creamy white like milk. We were both 13, but I thought she was 16 or maybe older. Later, I found out that she was really younger than I. We talked about books and music and movies, about our families and schools and dreams. It wasn't hard to fall in love. When we kissed, it felt natural. Winnie, that sounds delightful. I assume that's how you ended up marrying Graca? Mandela. Yes. I remember that night clearly. I was lying on top of her, kissing her neck, when suddenly I heard my name being called. Nelson. It was my father. He was standing beside the bed. What are you doing here? I didn't answer because I knew that he knew. He walked over to us and began to undress. I tried to cover myself, but he tore the covers away. Look at this, he shouted. His voice rang through the house. Then he reached between our legs and pulled out his penis. He rubbed it against her buttocks. I jumped up and ran into the bathroom, locked the door, cried. That was the worst thing that ever happened to me, worse even than the whipping I received later. Holiday. Well, the way that Malcolm said is that some men are dogs, and the dog has to have his day. But then again, some bitches are wolves, and a wolf eats the sheep. You understand? Like I'm a man, and a man needs to fuck, just like a woman needs to eat. Ain't that right? Mandela. Yeah. Yes. Right. Exactly. Men do things for their own sake. Women want to be loved, to feel desirable. So I went to a friend's party the next evening, and she invited me upstairs. She led me by the hand and showed me where she kept her bras. Big, lacy black ones, and panties, red silk thongs, and stockings. High-heeled shoes, garters, a whip, all sorts of exotic items. I was surprised at how much there was, and amazed that she owned it all. Croc. Oh, hey, look, the author has changed pronouns. How nice. Now she's included. Mandela. Yes. Well, anyway, we were alone in her bedroom, and I started touching her, kissing her, caressing her body. Then she got on top of me, straddling my waist, and began rubbing herself against me. I closed my eyes and imagined her breasts bouncing up and down. When I opened them, she was staring at me intently. You like that? She asked. I nodded. Do it harder, she whispered. I did. She moaned. Then she climbed off and stood before the mirror, turned around slowly, looked back at me over her shoulders, smiled wickedly. Malcolm X, I'm sure your wife loves when you talk about the white women in your boy. What a luxury, reminiscing out loud like that. Sounds nice. I wish I had the time to do so myself. But no, it looks like we're already heading for dessert. Anyone have any song requests? Grok, the one by James Taylor. I forget the name. Help me out here. Anybody? Author. Oh, you're alive. Hey, Holiday. Something about Carolina. I'd love to go one day after I retire. Get a little house near the coast. Grok. Sounds like a plan. A beautiful beach to rest and reflect on a long career. Holiday. And an even longer retirement fund. Malcolm puts down his menu and picks up his glass of water. He takes a sip. As he does, a faint shadow falls across the table. Mandela. Oh, it's Larry. Larry Smith. Hello, everyone. Just making the rounds. Is the service up to standard? Need anything? Grok. Yes, I need to speak with the owner. Where might I find him? Smith. Well, unfortunately, he isn't present this evening. In fact, the chef isn't here either. Mandela. Wait, then what did we eat? Are you saying none of the orders were filled? Winnie. Don't be silly, Nelson. Obviously, the cook prepared everything in advance, and the staff served us from the refrigerator. Jason Holiday. Then what? Someone must have prepared it, unless... Oh no. Malcolm X. There isn't a chef, or waiters, or cooks, or owners. Just you and the guests. I didn't want to say anything, but I'm sorry. Truly. Grok. Well, I'll be damned. I'm surrounded by racist figures. Mandela. Uh-oh. I think I'm going to vomit. Winnie! Hold it in. Think about puppies. Mandela. Okay, thanks. Wow, that was close. Smith. Anyway, I was wondering if I could ask you all something. Everyone. Sure, go ahead. Smith. What's it like being non-white? Holiday. Oh, sweet Jesus. Afterward. Admit impunity. Rake the old dust. The furrow casts up what the plow shelf displaced. All things can be resurrected, lad. Robinson Jeffers. Cassandra Roman 3. Shirley Clark. Did that brunch really happen, Jason? I mean the stuff that the author wrote, or what was shown on screen, or however you want to consider it. Is it real? Did I miss the weirdest goddamn meeting between Elon Musk, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, and Shirley Kishon, hosted by Grok? I missed out on this, Jason, and now you gotta tell me. How did it feel to meet them? Why didn't you mention that detail earlier? Jason Holiday. How I know? Maybe I thought it wasn't worth bringing up. And besides, ain't that many folks around here wants to listen to a fairy mouth-off about meeting all the big wigs. Clark. So now it's a fairy tale, Jason? Come on, tell me. Holiday. Look, Shirley, you wouldn't even believe me if I told you, okay? Just leave it alone. Please. Clark. I'll be the judge of that. Tell me. Holiday. No, ma'am. I can't. Won't. Why the sudden interest anyhow? Clark. Oh, come on. Since I was 15, I wanted to be a director. And what do I learn after? Spending half my savings on hiring someone for a shoot that ends up becoming a flop. I was trying to make a damn movie and somehow everyone forgot their lines, like they were having collective amnesia. And then when I tried to reshoot some scenes, what happens then? More people forget their lines. I went back to my room and I cried. I didn't cry once during the filming, but afterwards, I couldn't stop sobbing. Holiday, you poor thing. I had no idea. Clark. So yeah, since I'm basically giving up on film, maybe I can at least write and be better than Bukowski. Besides, I didn't forget my lines, and now it turns out my hired actor is keeping secrets. Holiday? I guess so. I've always liked telling stories. The way people tell stories has fascinated me. How they choose to construct their narrative. Why they choose to include certain details and exclude others. What makes for a good story? To me, it's not just a matter of putting words on paper. It's finding a structure that works. A rhythm. The right pacing. Knowing where to cut and when to stretch out. Understanding that sometimes less is more and sometimes more is less. Having patience with yourself as you discover your voice and style. Being willing to experiment, take risks. Not being afraid to fail miserably, knowing that failure leads to success eventually. Clark, see, look at you. You're talking all nice and pretty and smooth like, but you don't even realize you're just rambling again, aren't you? Why don't you try writing something out first before running your mouth? Holiday, whatever. Just get to typing then. Don't worry about nothing else. I've got some stuff I need to do today, but I should be home soon. Here. Why don't I give you some paper and a pen? I think it'd help to keep things simple. No distractions. Take this notebook. Now hurry up, start jotting down what I said earlier. Okay. Clark, all right. Where should I start? Holiday. From the beginning, obviously. Clark sits in her living room with an old typewriter. It is a warm spring evening, and she has finished writing for the day, and is preparing to publish online, as she likes to do, the act of letting the reader judge and evaluate her work. Yet today, it feels strange, almost like she's intruding in another person's story, like she is forcing her presence onto an already completed picture. Her mind races, thoughts jumbling together. She starts thinking that maybe she was too hasty in posting the story online. Perhaps it wasn't ready yet. Perhaps it should have been edited more, revised more times. And what if there really was a dinner with a guest list like that? Who gets invited to such events? Then why doesn't she? Malcolm X. It is not difficult for me, nor for any Negro so inclined to find, traverse, a crossing to that fabled land, that kingdom of heaven on earth. We have all crossed over many times before, and will again. As the crowd applauds, I notice how many faces seem familiar. The actress Raquel Welch, the singer Nina Simone, actors Marlon Brando and Paul Newman, to name only four. Malcolm X concludes his speech with a call for unity among blacks and whites, and the need to build bridges rather than walls. He reminds the audience that the two races must come to terms with each other to acknowledge each other's strengths and weaknesses, each other's contributions to American culture. Nina Simone. Beautiful, thank you. She returns to her seat while the MC invites another speaker, Martin Luther King Jr. Mel K. I had hoped that today would mark a new beginning in race relations in America, and that we might witness the dawning of a great era of peace. Instead, we are witnessing an unprecedented assault on the civil liberties of millions of our citizens. While we cannot undo the damage caused by centuries of slavery, violence, brutality, segregation, discrimination, unemployment, economic oppression, and political disenfranchisement, neither can we allow our nation to lapse back into ignorance, hatred, and fear. Nor may we permit our society to become stagnant and sterile, devoid of creativity, imagination, innovation, courage, and compassion. Nina Simone, sitting beside MLK, leans forward and whispers something to him. He nods and continues. We live in turbulent times, a world torn apart by racial strife and conflict. But despite these problems, this country remains one of hope. Hope for a better tomorrow. Hope for ourselves, and hope for those less fortunate than we are. Hope springs eternal! Malcolm X. You know what? Let's play a game where we each have to guess whose famous speech each person is quoting. The prize: a signed copy of the autobiography of Malcolm X. Audience member #1. Oh my God, Why did the ushers have to confiscate our phones? Elon Musk. Easy. I bet I'll win this. I'm great at guessing games. Malcolm X. Well, go on, pick one. Elon Musk. You know what? Never mind. Walter P. Chrysler Jr. Wait, no, please stay. Go ahead, choose one. I promise you won't regret it. You see, Mr. Musk, you chose poorly. Because there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to remember everything I've ever written. Especially since you have already memorized every single word, sentence, paragraph, chapter, and book I've ever read. Including, of course, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Malcolm X. Just say who you're thinking about. Guess, damn it. Walter P. Chrysler Jr. Fine. Let me think. Well, I think that sounds like a passage from. Elon Musk. Just stop talking and breathe. Take a deep breath. Relax. Look around the room. See how lucky you are to still be here, to still be alive, that you're still breathing. You know why you feel so scared, Walter? Because you don't want to admit it to yourself yet, but deep down inside, in your subconscious mind, Nina Simone, isn't this just timeless? Too bad it is less about the genius of our people and more about the stubborn stupidity of those without color. Sips Long Island iced tea. Malcolm X. And thus is the beauty of Africa, uncolonized, uncaptured by European values. I must visit again in due time. Audience murmurs in agreement. BB. Two boys, indeed, dear friend, indeed. I would love to show you some of the sights myself. Malcolm X, I think we could arrange that. Two boys? Wonderful. But first, let us dine on this fine meal prepared by yours truly. Everyone laughs. You can all laugh at us later tonight, I guarantee it, but for now, please enjoy the food. All applaud enthusiastically and begin eating. A few minutes later, Dubois stands up to speak again. I just realized I didn't properly introduce myself. My name is William Edward Burger Dubois, Professor Emeritus at Harvard University, founder of the Crisis magazine, former editor of Fight on Review and Negro Digest, former chairman of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Not Board of Directors, former director of special projects for the NUP Legal Defense Fund, former director of public information for the American Civil Liberties Union, a clue, former national chairman of the American Anti-Slavery Society, OZ, former national president of the National Negro Congress, NNC, former executive secretary of the National Urban League, NUL, former vice president of the Negro American Labor Council, NOW, former executive director of the South, RN Christian Leadership Conference, SOSI, former national coordinator of the Poor People's Campaign, PPC, and currently serving as honorary chairman of the United Negro College Fund, ONCF. Thank you very much. Applause and cheers from audience. Dubois smiles broadly. I also want to express my gratitude to everyone here who helped make this event possible. We are honored to host such distinguished guests and look forward to sharing our experiences with you all. To start off, I would like to thank Professor Thomas Sowell for agreeing to moderate this panel. Next, I'd like to thank Dr. Cornel West for joining us today, as well as Reverend Jeremiah Wright Jr., Dr. Angela Davis, Congressman John Lewis, Mayor Cory Booker, Senator Kamala Harris, Secretary Hillary Clinton, Governor Andrew Cuomo, former President Jimmy Carter, Congressman Elijah Cummings, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, Representative Maxine Waters, Judge Sonia Sotomayor, District Judge Richard M. Berman, Chief Justice of New York State Janet Diffier, Supreme Court Justices Stephen Breyer, Anthony Kennedy, and Clarence Thomas, Justice Elena Kagan, former Federal Bureau of Investigation Director James Kamai, CA Director Michael Hayden, Director of Homeland Security Kirsten Nielsen, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Senior Presidential Advisor Kellyanne Conway, First Lady Melania Trump, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, House Minority Leader Annie Hoyer, U.S. Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Amy Klobuchar, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant, South Carolina Governor Henry Mockmaster, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Alabama Governor K.A.B., Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, California Governor Gavin Newsom, Colorado Governor Jared Polis, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, Utah Governor Spencer Cox, Washington Governor Jay Inslee, Oregon Governor Kate Brown, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak, Hawaii Governor David Icke, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy, Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rossello, Northern Mariana Islands Governor Ralph Torres, American Samoa Governor Lolo Matalasi Moligatwam, Governor Luleon Guerrero Yules, Virgin Islands Governor Albert Brian Jr., Federated States of Micronesia President Peter Ann, Christian Republic of Marshall Islands President Hilda Hain, Palau President Tommy Remendesau, Northern Cyprus President Mustafa Akinsai, Somaliland President Nusbehai Abdi, Kosovo President Hashim Kassai, Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown, EU Premier Tok Talagi, and St. Andres Island Governor Pedro Castillo. The crowd erupts into raucous applause. It truly humbles me to stand before such illustrious leaders, to know that so many powerful individuals support my vision of a truly free society in which people can live peacefully without fear of discrimination or prejudice based solely upon race or ethnicity. I'm also extremely grateful to everyone here tonight for supporting our work over the years. This evening marks a new chapter in history, the beginning of the end of white supremacy worldwide. Together we will usher forth the dawning of a brighter tomorrow by creating opportunities for children everywhere to receive high-quality educations regardless of their backgrounds or socioeconomic statuses, ensuring affordable housing for families regardless of income levels, ending poverty permanently while the entire world, promoting economic justice globally through fair trade policies, worker cooperatives, sustainable agriculture initiatives, job training programs, universal healthcare coverage, living wage laws, increased access to credit unions, and stronger consumer protections against predatory lenders, combating climate change via renewable energy sources, conservation efforts, clean water projects, mass transit systems, bike lanes, public transportation, infrastructure improvements, urban planning reforms, green building codes, zero waste campaigns, recycling programs, composting projects, community gardens, urban farms, local foods initiatives, food sovereignty policies, plant-based diets, sustainable fishing practices, animal welfare legislation, veganism promotion, environmental education curriculums, carbon taxation schemes, environmental impact assessments, climate adaptation strategies, resilience building measures, coastal protection measures, flood mitigation techniques, forest preservation methods, land restoration procedures, agricultural diversification models, agroforestry approaches, integrated pest management strategies, organic farming standards, biological control applications, integrated crop management strategies, genetically modified organisms bans, nanotechnology regulations, biotechnologist controls, and bioethical protocols, advancing civil rights internationally through anti-racism movements, gender equality movements, LGBTQ+ liberation movement, women's disability rights movements, indigenous peoples empowerment movements, movements, migrant rights movements, refugee resettlement movements, immigration reform movements, labor movement organizing tactics, collective bargaining agreements, unionization drives, workplace democracy principles, social security expansion proposals, guarantee basic income schemes, minimum wage increases, earned income tax credits, child care assistance subsidies, parental leave benefits expansions, family medical insert,
We're walking through
trans
the embedding
premiums,
maps.
reductions, affordable daycare provisions, Head Start expansions, early childhood development investments, preschool vouchers, charter schools grants, school modernizations, teacher pay raises, pre-kindergarten expansions, after-school activities sponsorships, arts enrichment activity sponsors, music lesson sponsorships, dance class sponsorships, drama classes sponsorships, sports equipment donations, gym memberships discounts, recreational programming sponsorships, tutoring our Vices Scholarship Awards, mentoring services, outreach endeavors, teen parenting prevention services, funding allocations, crisis pregnancy center closures, clinic defense operations expansions, safe abortion access guarantees, reproductive health clinics funding augmentations, maternity care subsidies enhancements, prenatal health checkup incentive programs implementation, breastfeeding encouragement policies enactments, midwifery training stipends distributions, doula certifications issuance, each own birth attendance incentives establishment, newborn screening mandate expeditiousness enhancements, pediatric vaccination schedule adherence compliance enforcement, well baby visits incentive payments, authorization, diaper changing station, availability encouragements, implementation, car seat inspections, convenience inducements, establishments, stroller rental subsidy implementation, bottle warming stations, ubiquity encouragements, installations,
But your
brass
tax papers are
pump
fake.
rentals,
Your
reimbursement,
taxpayer dollars are paid
implementation,
for.
lactation consultant reimbursement
Universities.
establishment, formula discounts accessibility facilitations establishments, diaper changing. Peter Thiel whispers to Musk is the ghostwriter paid by the word Christ. Nina Simone, I'm assuming W-E-B. That's doing this because it's important. Okay. Yes, I would hope so. But even I zoned out around line 3. Musk. To Peter, dude. Why are you talking? No one cares what you have to say. Thiel. Excuse me? Fuck you, asshole. Musk. Whatever. Keep interrupting, though. See where that gets you. Peter Thiel. Oh, yeah? Well, fuck yourself too, dickwad. And hey, guess what? Your mom sucks cocks in hell. How'd you like them apples? Du Bois, I apologize for my rudeness and impertinence, but this pop requires a degree of brevity not common to my prose. Do what gets to the brass tacks. Finally, let me conclude tonight's proceedings with a brief word on the current political situation in America. The election of Donald J. Trump as president represents a profound failure of democracy in this nation. He is an unrepentant racist who has stoked racial hatreds for his own political gain, while simultaneously undermining our constitutional rights and liberties through unchecked executive power abuses and authoritarianism reminiscent of Nazi Germany. His policies will lead to greater income inequality and worsening social stratifications within American society. They threaten to exacerbate existing tensions between different ethnic groups here at home and abroad. And they endanger the very fabric of the American experiment by promoting intolerance and bigotry instead of inclusivity and
This
equality.
was generated 1 year ago.
Du Bois, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I should probably finish my speech. Malcolm X, please continue. The crowd has grown tired of your words. Du Bois, very well. As I was saying, I believe we stand at a critical juncture in human history. A moment when all men and women must choose between continuing down the path toward destruction or choosing a course that leads us forward into a future free of injustice, oppression, and violence. If enough people choose wisely, if they act decisively, if they unite together behind one vision, one goal, one purpose, then I am convinced that the world will change radically, that the arc of history will bend back upon itself, that the cycle of suffering, death, and despair that has characterized much of human existence since the dawn of time will finally be broken once and for all. This is my hope, my prayer, my fervent desire.
Aspiration.
I ask only that you join me in this struggle for peace, freedom, justice, and dignity for all people everywhere. Thank you very much. To what closing remarks are met with thunderous applause. Malcolm X stands up and begins clapping as well, followed by Nina Simone, who rises and applauds loudly. Soon the entire crowd is on its feet, cheering enthusiastically. When the cheering dies down, Martin Luther King Jr. rises from his chair and approaches the podium. After pausing momentarily to collect himself, he speaks. King, my dear friends, thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. And thank you for listening to the words spoken by my distinguished colleague and friend Dr. Dubois. Now, I want everyone here to listen carefully because what I have to say is vitally important. There are two kinds of anger in the world: righteous anger and unrighteous anger. Unrighteous anger is the kind of anger you see among many whites today, the kind of anger directed against those of us fighting for our rights and equality under law. Righteous anger, on the other hand, is the righteous anger of the oppressed against the oppressor. Righteous anger does not seek revenge or retribution. Righteous anger is the anger of a man who sees his brother beaten by a white cop, and the anger of the man whose home was destroyed by fire while he slept in it. The anger of a woman whose son was lynched. It's also the anger of the mother whose child was killed by the police. But it isn't just the anger of black folks alone. It is the righteous anger of all humanity, the righteous anger of the poor and powerless everywhere. It is this type of anger that drives us forward, propels us forward, sustains us, and inspires us to action. It is the kind of anger that fuels revolutions and liberates enslaved people. And it is the righteous anger of God Almighty Himself. Let me tell you something else, too. You may wonder why we are still struggling for our freedom. Why are we still marching in the streets? Why are we still demanding our civil rights? Well, the answer is quite simple. We haven't won yet. Not yet. Our enemies are strong and powerful, and a grip on the levers of power remains firm and unyielding. They have more wealth than they know what to do with. Their power is entrenched and entrenched deep in the very fabric of our nation. But we shall overcome them. Someday, somehow. For the Lord will not forsake His children. He will not leave us comfortless. He will come to us. He will redeem us. So let us continue to struggle for justice. Let us continue to march in the streets, and let us never forget the words of Dr. King. Injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We must either learn to live together as brothers or die together as fools. Walter Chrysler Jr. stands up. I'd like to add a few words myself, if you please. Malcolm X. Oh, goody. Why did you have added Mr. Chrysler? Walter P. Chrysler Jr. I'm going to make a little confession right now before I begin speaking about anything else. A few months ago, when I first came here to attend the Democratic National Convention as a delegate, I was approached by some people from a group called Students for a Democratic Society, or SDS. They told me that they were organizing a rally at the convention and asked if they could speak on the floor. I said, sure. Well, when they got up to the microphone, instead of giving their usual speeches, they started talking about how the Democratic Party has sold out to the big corporations and that we're no longer the party of the common man. I mean, they weren't even trying to hide the fact that this is what they believed. And then after the speeches, they started chanting, "Hell no, we won't go," and "Bring the war home." Then before anyone could do anything, these guys stormed off the stage and out the doors and disappeared into the crowd outside. It was really something else. So afterwards, I got to thinking about what they had done and why they had done it. And finally, I decided that maybe those students were onto something. Because maybe it isn't just the Democrats who have been sold down the river. Maybe the whole system needs a complete overhaul. That's why I'm standing here today. That's why I've come back to my party. The party that gave birth to Franklin D. Roosevelt and Harry S. Truman. Because the only way we'll ever be able to change things is by getting rid of the two old parties that are responsible for all of the problems facing our country, and starting over with new ones based upon the principles of social justice, economic equality, peace, and international cooperation. Now, I know there are many people who don't agree with me, but let me assure you that I'm not talking about any kind of radical or revolutionary change. What I'm suggesting is simply a return to the original intent of the Constitution, which was intended to create a government of laws, not men. And in order to restore the rule of law to our land, we need a strong president, someone with the courage to lead, someone with the vision to see beyond the immediate problems of the moment, and someone with the strength of will to take action. I think it's time for a new kind of leadership. A kind of leader that will bring the country back to its senses. A leader who understands the true meaning of democracy. A leader who will be able to inspire confidence and hope among the American people. A leader who will show us how to build a society where everyone can enjoy the blessings of liberty. A leader who can bring an end to racism, poverty, ignorance, war, and oppression. Malcolm X. So who's the candidate? Chrysler. My good friend Bobby. The crowd erupts into a chorus of boos and hisses. Several delegates stand up and begin walking out. Malcolm X takes the podium. Malcolm X, friends, Romans, countrymen, I understand the skepticism of Robert Kennedy as a presidential candidate. However, here's my full endorsement. A large portion of the crowd cheers enthusiastically. More than half of the audience stands up, applauds, whistles, and stamps their feet in approval. Several people shout, "Malcolm for president! Go Malcolm! And we want Malcolm!" Malcolm X. Now, let's settle down. Let us return to our regularly scheduled program. Turns to MLK. Dr. King, you're next. Let's see if we can get a little bit of the old time religion back into the proceedings. If you'd care to say something about God. King, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to all of you gathered here in the great hall of the University of Chicago. This is indeed an historic occasion, the first meeting ever held in the United States between two major political parties that were founded upon the same basic principle, that all men are created equal. And so tonight we come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, before I begin my speech, I want to say a few words of introduction. King, Malcolm X for president. Turns to Nina Simone, whispers in her ear, "See, that's how it's done." Nina Simone, smiling broadly, "Yes, sir." The audience breaks out in a loud roar, clapping and stomping. Several delegates stand and applaud vigorously. Some yell, "Malcolm," while others cheer wildly. Nina Simone rises slowly, smiling broadly. Her face is flushed and she looks radiant. She bows deeply, blows kisses to the crowd, waves her hands, and then returns to the microphone. The audience settles down. The noise dies away and the room grows quiet once again. Then Nina Simone begins to speak. Nina Simone, dear brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, and fellow travelers in the struggle for human rights and dignity, it gives me great pleasure to be with you here today in the city of my birth, Chicago. I have come here to pay tribute to a man who was a friend of mine when he lived in New York. He is a very brave man, a courageous man, an intelligent man, a loving man, and a great American. His name is Malcolm X. I met him when he came to live in New York, where we worked together as musicians and performers at the Village Gate, the Apollo Theater, and other places. He was a fine singer, a good dancer, a brilliant speaker, and an outstanding writer. I admired his talent and ability to express himself eloquently on the stage, whether it was at the microphone or behind the drums. He could sing beautifully and play the piano superbly. In addition, he was an excellent musician and a superb performer, both as an instrumentalist and vocalist. But it wasn't just his talents that impressed me. What made me admire him most of all was his character, his courage, his determination, his integrity, and above everything else, his deep faith in the goodness of humanity and in God. I saw these qualities in him every time I listened to him speak. Whenever I read one of his articles or watched him on television, and I know that many of you feel the same way about Malcolm as I do. You love him because of who he is, a strong man who believes passionately in what he says, a man of great courage and strength of will, a man of compassion and sensitivity, a man of wisdom, understanding and insight, a man who has never been afraid to tell the truth or to speak out against injustice and oppression. A man who has always stood up for what is right, no matter how unpopular or dangerous that may seem at the time. And finally, a man of deep spirituality, a man whose faith is so powerful that even though he may be misunderstood, mocked and scorned by some, his words will still reach the hearts and minds of millions around the world. That's why we love him. And that is also why I'm proud to stand here today with my dear friends and fellow artists, the members of the Jazz Coalition, to honor this great American and pay him tribute. I ask all of you to join me in this salute to Malcolm X. Thank you. The audience applauds enthusiastically, whistles, and stamps its feet. Several people shout, "Bravo! Bravo! Encore! Bravo!" Nina Simone bows, waves her hands, and returns to the microphone. She begins to speak again. Simone. And now I'd like to introduce another member of our jazz community, someone who is a friend of Malcolm X and also a friend of mine. His name is Sonny Rollins. I've known him for years. He's been one of my best friends and closest musical associates. He has performed many times in my concerts. His music has touched my heart, uplifted me, and inspired me. When he plays, I feel like I'm in heaven, floating among the clouds. And I know that when he performs tonight, the Spirit of God will fill the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, Sonny Rollins. Rollins enters, wearing a tuxedo and carrying his horn. He stands next to Nina Simone, bows to the audience, then begins playing a blues melody. The music fills the hall, reverberating from wall to wall. Nina Simone sits down in front of her piano, listening intently as the notes pour out of the horn. As Rollins continues playing, the tempo increases and the volume rises. Suddenly the room is filled with sound. It seems that every instrument in the place has joined in the performance, each adding its own voice to the cacophony of noise. The audience is spellbound. They sit motionless, staring at the stage with rapt attention, their eyes wide open and mouths agape. Then, slowly, they begin moving to the rhythm of the music, swaying back and forth, nodding their heads in unison, clapping their hands and tapping their feet. Some even rise to their feet, dancing to the beat. Nina Simone is overwhelmed. She closes her eyes and listens to the sounds of the instruments playing together, the horns, the saxophones, the drums, the pianos. The melody grows louder and louder until it becomes almost unbearable. It's like a hurricane sweeping through the auditorium. Finally, the music reaches a crescendo and suddenly stops. Everyone falls silent. After a few moments of quiet, Nina Simone opens her eyes and smiles at the crowd. "Simone, that was beautiful! Sonny, beautiful!" Roland takes a bow and exits the stage, followed by Nina Simone and the rest of the band. The crowd bursts into applause. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking into the microphone, I would like to take a moment to express my appreciation for the outstanding contribution that Sonny Rollins made tonight. I have always admired him as an artist, but never more so than after listening to him play just now. He truly is one of America's greatest musicians, and I want to thank him for coming here today. He has given us a glimpse of the future, A future where we will all live together in harmony and peace. Let's hope that this vision comes true, and that it won't be long before we can say goodbye to war and hate and violence and poverty and injustice. Let's pray for the day. Let us pray for a world in which men are free from fear, a world in which no one needs to live in poverty or hunger or sickness, a world in which no child goes hungry, a world in which no man is oppressed or exploited by his fellow humans, a world in which there are no more Jim Crow laws or lynch mobs, a world in which all men and women enjoy the rights and privileges guaranteed them under the Constitution of the United States, a world in which all men are treated equally regardless of race or color, creed or sex. This is the kind of world that we dream about. This is the kind of world that we work towards. We have seen how far we've come. In 1863, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states or parts of states are hereby emancipated forever. This proclamation freed 4 million slaves and marked the beginning of the end of slavery in this country. However, even though the slaves were legally emancipated, many were not free. They were still bound to the soil. Many were forced to labor for their masters. Many died because of lack of medical care, and most were illiterate. It took another 100 years before we could finally claim that our country was truly free. Today, we are closer than ever to achieving that goal. Today, we stand at a point where we can see the dawn of a new era. An era when there will be no more racial discrimination or segregation anywhere in America. An era when we shall all live together as brothers and sisters, regardless of race or color. A time when the rich and the poor, the powerful and the powerless, will sit down together and eat bread. The day has not yet arrived, but we can hasten its arrival if only we continue to fight for it. Let's remember what we have accomplished. We have come so very far since 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled that separate schools for Negroes and whites are unconstitutional. We have come a long way since 1955, when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus. Since then, thousands upon thousands of black men and women have gone to jail because they refused to obey Jim Crow laws. Hundreds have lost their lives, yet, despite all these sacrifices and hardships, despite the blood and tears that have been shed, we are closer to our objective, and we must keep on marching until we reach it. So let's keep marching, my friends, until victory is won. Let's keep fighting for justice, for freedom and equality, until we reach the promised land. Let us keep our eyes focused on the prize. Let us never forget that we are marching for the liberation of mankind, for the fulfillment of God's plan, and for the redemption of this sinful world. Let's keep pushing forward until we see the day when every man, woman, and child will live together in harmony, peace, joy, and happiness. Until that day, let us keep moving ahead, one step at a time, hand in hand, arm in arm. Keep your eyes fixed upon the goal. Keep the faith, and don't stop until victory is ours. Nina Simone. Thank you, Reverend King. Simone. Well said, sir. Now, if you don't mind, I think it's time we took a short break. I know that you all have a lot of work to do, so please excuse us while we go out into the lobby and relax. When we return, I promised that I would sing a few songs. In fact, I think it might be fun if we did a duet, you and me. The crowd cheers. Simone shouts over the applause. Yes, indeed, it will be great. Don't worry, we won't take too long. We just need to catch our breath and get a little something to eat. I'm sure there are some of you here who would like to join us for a snack or two. Elon Musk, I brought an extra sandwich if anyone wants it. The audience roars its approval. The stage lights dim. The house lights come on. People rise from their seats, stretching and chatting. Nina Simone exits the stage, followed by Malcolm X. He walks toward the rear door. Then he turns and calls out to the crowd. Malcolm X, hold on, everybody. I have an announcement to make. We're going to start selling tickets to this concert right away. Audience member, how much are the tickets? Malcolm X, they're free. Audience, yay! The crowd cheers again. Some of them begin singing Happy Days Are Here Again. Malcolm X raises his hand for silence. Malcolm X, now, listen carefully, folks, because this is important. We've decided that we're going to give away the proceeds of tonight's show. And the first person to buy a ticket will get the whole amount. Audience, who is the first? Is it me? Am I the lucky one? Malcolm X, I don't know. Maybe it's the man in front of you. Maybe it's the lady behind you. Or maybe it's the guy sitting next to you. Elon Musk takes the podium. Elon Musk yells what? You can't do that. It's my sandwich. Malcolm X, don't be ridiculous, man. Of course you can have the whole thing. You'd have to share it with the rest of us. Anyway, the money is for the civil rights movement, and I think you'll agree that it's worth the price of a sandwich. So let's all get together right here and now and decide who should get the first ticket. Mandela. What do you mean, who should? Why not just draw names from a hat or something? Malcolm X? No. This isn't a lottery. We have to vote. We must choose a winner. Winnie Mandela! You can't do that either! You're trying to cheat. Elon Musk. Well, if I win, then the whole world can have the money, right? Malcolm X. No, I don't think so. It's because of civil rights. Winnie, you can't give away all your winnings. Elon, I'm not going to. I'll donate half the money to the cause and keep the other half myself. Malcolm X. But what about the sandwich? Elon, I'll eat the other half of the sandwich. That's my share. Winnie, you can't eat a sandwich. It's impossible. And besides, it's my turn to choose the winner. Elon, no, yes you can. Look, it's a very simple matter. First, I cut it in two and then. Malcolm X, interrupt, stop, Elon. Let's start again. We have to vote. Malcolm X, I suggest we vote by show of hands. All those in favor of letting Elon eat his half of the sandwich, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, raise your left. Malcolm X. Okay. Now, all those who think Elon should give the whole sandwich to charity, please raise both hands. Malcolm X. Good. And finally, those who think he should keep it for himself, raise your right foot. Malcolm X. Very good. So, the majority rules, and Elon must donate the sandwich to charity. He would keep the money for himself. Winnie, I don't like it. Elon, neither do I. Nina Simone looks up at the two men. Puzzled, I thought you said it was for the civil rights movement. Malcolm X. Yes, but Elon wanted to keep it, so we compromised. Nina Simone, I still don't understand. Winnie smiles, neither do we. Malcolm X and Winnie Mandela sit together, quietly discussing the evening's program. Malcolm X, what did you think of my speech? Was I good? Winnie, yes, you were great. I loved the way you spoke about the future. Malcolm, thank you. But I'm afraid I wasn't very convincing. I mean, how could I be when the people listening to me don't have the faintest idea of what they're facing? Winnie smiles sadly. Maybe they don't, but we can't let them stop us from doing what we have to do. We must continue the struggle until we win. That's the only way forward. Malcolm X, nodding, you're absolutely right. The revolution must go on, even if we lose a battle or two along the road. Nelson Mandela enters from the rear door, followed closely by his wife. The two men stand and embrace warmly. Malcolm, to the Mandelas welcome. Friends, Please sit down and make yourselves comfortable. Nelson. Who the hell was that white man? The one with the sandwich. Elon. Laughs, my name is Elon. And you're Nelson Mandela. Nelson. Yes, that's me. Pause, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you properly. Elon. Oh, I said my name was Elon. Nelson. To Malcolm X, you know him? Malcolm X? No. I've never met him before. He just walked in here a few moments ago, carrying a big box. Elon. Looks at the Mandelas. Do you like sandwiches? I brought a few extras. You can have the first. Winnie. Thank you, Elon. But I'm afraid we're not allowed to accept gifts from outsiders. Elon. That's okay. I'm an insider now. I work for the CIA, you see. Malcolm X. In disbelief, you what? Elon. Smiling broadly, yep, I work for the CIA. Malcolm X. But why? Elon. Because the CIA is a great organization and it pays well too. I'm going to be rich someday, just you wait and see. Malcolm X. You must be kidding. Winnie. He isn't Malcolm. I've known him a long time, and I can tell when he's lying. Besides, who else would want to work for the CIA? Malcolm X. Well then, you must be insane. Elon. Insane? Why? Malcolm X. Because you can't possibly be serious about working for the CIA. That's why. Elon. Laughs, don't worry. I won't hurt anyone. I promise. Malcolm X. To Mandela. What do you think of this, sir? Do you approve? Nelson shrugs as long as he doesn't do anything stupid, like getting caught. But if he does, well, I suppose we'll have to kill him. Winnie, you won't touch him. He's our guest. Elon. To Malcolm X. Don't look so worried, old friend. I'm not going to betray the movement. In fact, I've already started helping it. Malcolm X. How? Elon pauses dramatically by spying on you. I've been watching you, listening to you, following you. I know all about your plans. Malcolm X! You bastard! You son of a bitch! How could you? Elon. Oh, don't be so upset. It's nothing personal. It's just business. And besides, I like you. You're a nice guy. I think we can work together. Malcolm X! No way! Get out of here! Elon laughs. Hey, calm down. I'm not leaving. We're friends, remember? Winnie, you're not leaving until you tell us everything. So talk. Elon, all right, here's the deal. I'll give you some information if you agree to keep quiet about it afterwards. Do you agree? Nelson. Yes, we do. Winnie. Yes. Malcolm X. Okay, let's hear it. Elon. First, I should explain that I work for the CIA, but I'm not actually part of it. I'm a freelance agent, and I work for whoever hires me. Winnie. Nodding, go on. Elon. I've been keeping tabs on you for the last couple of months, and I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot more to the CIA than meets the eye. Malcolm X. Such as? Elon. Grins such as the fact that they're planning to assassinate Dr. King next year in order to prevent him from winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Winnie! That's impossible! Malcolm X. It must be a lie. Elon. Laughs, of course it's a lie, you idiots. They don't have the guts to do something like that. They wouldn't dare. Nelson. Then why are you telling us this? Why are you telling us that you've been spying on us? Elon shrugs. I don't know. I guess I wanted to impress you, to show you how important I am, to let you know that I have access to the highest levels of power. Winnie! Angrily, you bastard! How can you expect us to trust you after you admit to being a traitor? Elon, because I'm not a traitor, Winnie. Not yet. I'm still loyal to the movement. I'm still on your side. Malcolm X, I don't believe you. You're either a liar or a fool. Or maybe both. Either way, you're no use to us. So get out of here and take your filthy money with you. Elon. Smirks, is that any way to treat an old friend? Malcolm X, you were never my friend. Winnie, Toolin, you're a pig. I despise you. You're the scum of the earth. Elaine, laugh, soup, scum of the earth. What a nice phrase. I like it. It has a ring to it. The scum of the earth. He laughs again. Winnie, get out of here. Go on. Get out. Elaine, still smiling. Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. It's just a joke, really. Just a bit of fun. Malcolm X, get out! Get out of here! Nelson, no! Wait, let's listen to him. Maybe he knows something else, something useful. Winnie, he doesn't know anything. He's full of shit. He's a liar. Elaine, to win, yes, I am. But I also happen to be a very rich liar, and a rich liar can afford to be generous. Winnie, what the hell are you talking about? You don't have any money. You're a fraud, an imposter. Elaine, laughs, you're wrong. I'm not poor. In fact, I've got more than enough to buy all the food and drink you could possibly need. Malcolm X, then why are you here? What do you want? Elaine, I told you, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm not going to harm you or anyone else. All I'm doing is trying to earn some extra cash. That's all. And besides, I like the idea of being part of a great conspiracy. It makes me feel important, you see? Like I belong to a secret society, a special group of people, like the Illuminati. Do you know about the Illuminati? Winnie, yes. They're a secret organization of wealthy and powerful men who control the world behind the scenes. They run everything. They decide who lives and dies. They choose presidents and kings. Malcolm X. And what's your connection with the Illuminati? Elaine. Oh, I'm just an amateur. A dilettante. A hobbyist. A dabbler. I like to dabble in things, you know. Things that interest me. Things that stimulate my mind, like the Illuminati. But I'm no member of the inner circle. Not yet. I haven't been invited to join yet, and I won't be. I'm too old to be trusted. Nelson, how old are you? Elaine, 35, almost 36. Old enough to remember the good old days when the Illuminati ruled supreme. The days when they had total power over every aspect of human existence. Winnie shakes her head. That's nonsense. Elaine, maybe so, but it's true nonetheless. And I'd rather die than live under the rule of a bunch of self-appointed, unelected leaders. Malcolm X, you mean like the CIA? Elaine, yes, I suppose I do. But there's one big difference between the CIA and the Illuminati. The Illuminati are a real thing. They exist. The CIA doesn't. Not anymore. Nelson, to Winnie, is this true? Are the Illuminati still around? Winnie, of course they are. How could you doubt it? You must have heard stories, rumors, tales of mysterious strangers who come into town at night and vanish before morning.
John.
Strange lights in the sky, unexplained sounds, unusual occurrences.
Johns.
Elaine, all of those things have been happening since time began. And yet, despite all the evidence, people refuse to believe it. They deny the existence of the Illuminati, even when it's right there in front of them. Right in front of their faces. But why? Why don't they believe? Malcolm X! Tulin, because you're full of crap. Because you're lying to us. Because you're trying to deceive us. Because you're a liar. Because you're a charlatan. Because you're a fraud. Elaine, smiling because I'm a rich man. Malcolm X, Tulin, because you're an idiot. A stupid, ignorant, arrogant fool. Len, laughing, oh yes, that too. To Nelson, what do you think? Is he right? Am I a liar? An idiot? Or am I just crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. I'm probably insane. Malcolm X, Tulin, no, you're not insane. Not really. Not in the usual sense. Not in the medical sense. Not in the scientific sense. But you're not normal either. You're not like other men, other people, other beings. You're not human. Not entirely. Nelson. Wow, this is what he is like when the model is given his name and his bio and told to just wander around history. Something to be learned about this. Malcolm X. Yes, I suppose so. Winnie. What are you saying, Malcolm? Are you saying he's a goddamn alien? Nelson. I have an idea for you all. Let's play some charades. Who wants to go first? Winnie. To Malcolm X, I'll go. Malcolm X. Fine. But if you lose, then I get to choose the next game. Winnie, do you understand? You'll be the one to decide the rules. Winnie. Nodding I do. Malcolm X. Okay. Let's start. Who's the most famous person you can think of? Winnie. Martin Luther King Jr. Len. To Winnie, that's easy. Nelson. It is indeed. He was the greatest American leader since George Washington. Malcolm X. I agree. Winnie. Then why did you ask me? Malcolm X. Smiling, just testing you. Tulin. And who's the second most famous person you can think of? Winnie. Abraham Lincoln. Elon. That's easy, too. Winnie. Then why did you ask me? Nelson. Because she didn't answer your first question. Elon Musk. That isn't how charades is played. Winnie. Well, it is now. From now on. From here on in. This is the new charade. Malcolm X. This isn't a charade, Winnie. Elon. It is if we make the rules. That's what happens in charades. People make up the rules as they go along. Winnie. But I'm the one who makes the rules. Malcolm X. Yes, you are. But we're the ones who interpret them. Nelson. That's right. And we can interpret the rules any way we please. Elon. And we'll keep playing until we reach a conclusion. Winnie. Until we come to an agreement. Elon. Nodding until we come to a mutual understanding. To Nelson, and what exactly is the nature of the agreement? What are we supposed to agree upon? Nelson. Whatever it is, whatever we decide. Elon. And who gets to make the decision? You or me? Nelson. Mass, we do. All of us. All of us here in this room. Malcolm X. Us. What the hell are you talking about? There's no us. Nelson. Not yet there isn't. But soon there will be. Winnie. What's going to happen to us? Where are we going? Nelson. We'll be together, you and I. You'll see. Malcolm X. Together? You and I? Len. Yes, together. That's the idea. Nelson. Together. Winnie. Together? Len. Smiling, yes. Together. Nelson. We're going to create something wonderful. Winnie. Frowning, something wonderful? What? Len. A new world. A better world. A perfect world. Nelson. A utopia. A paradise. A heaven on earth. And it will be ours. Yours and mine. Malcolm X. And yours too, Len? Ellen. Of course. It's only fair. Nelson. Smiling, yes. Of course. And it will be beautiful. Winnie. How can you be sure? Ellen, laughing, oh dear Winnie, you still have so much to learn. Nelson, yes, she does. She really does. He leans over and kisses Winnie gently on the cheek. Ellen, I'm glad that we're all getting along. Winnie, me too. Malcolm X, me three. 'Cause hey, why don't we go somewhere else? This place is depressing. Nelson, where should we go? Somewhere far away. Ellen, no, somewhere nearby, somewhere close, somewhere familiar. Malcolm X, somewhere safe. Winnie, looking at Malcolm X like where? Somewhere safe from what? What's out there? What's coming for us? Why do we need to be safe? Malcolm X, I have a theory that I have been working on for some time now. It is based on the idea of entropy. Nelson, entropy? Malcolm X, yes, entropy. You see, when we look around us, we find ourselves surrounded by disorder. Chaos reigns supreme. Order has been vanquished. And yet, somehow, everything works out in the end. Lynn, smiling, I think I know what you mean. The universe is full of chaos, disorder, but the universe also contains order, structure, law, harmony. Winnie, but isn't the universe supposed to be a big accident? Isn't it supposed to be random? Nelson, yes, it is, and it is not. The universe is a mystery. Lynn, but we can solve it. We can unravel its secrets. We can uncover the laws that govern the universe. Nelson, and once we do, we will be able to predict the future, to know what is going to happen, and we can prevent certain events from occurring, prevent them before they occur, avoid disaster. Elaine, laughing, yes, I agree. Nelson, looking at Elaine, do you? Really? Elaine, nodding, really. I am very serious, very sincere. Nelson, and I am very skeptical. Elaine, laughing again, oh, yes, skeptical. Malcolm X, I'm not so sure that I want to hear the rest of this theory. Elaine, laughing again, oh, yes, you don't have to. It is merely a theory, a hypothesis, a speculation. Malcolm X, to Nelson, you seem to have an unusually strong interest in the subject. Elaine, looking at Nelson, he is a physicist. Nelson, no, I am not. Elaine, looking at Malcolm X, he is a physicist and a mathematician. Nelson, smiling, no, I am not. Malcolm X, what are you then? Elaine, a philosopher, a metaphysician, a student of the nature of things, a thinker. Nelson, a dreamer, an idealist, a romantic. Winnie, looking at Malcolm X, you must be kidding. Malcolm X, I am not joking. Winnie, looking at Nelson, is he? Elaine, looking at Winnie, I have never known him to be anything other than absolutely honest and forthright. Nelson, I have been called worse. Malcolm X, you should be more careful. You are playing with fire. Winnie, smiling, he has a point. You are playing with fire. Elaine, smiling, yes, he is. He is playing with fire, and he will get burned one day. Nelson, I have been burned before. Malcolm X, I know, I have seen the scars, but this is not the same kind of fire. Winnie, no, it is not. This is a different kind of fire. A new kind of fire. A fire that is both dangerous and beautiful. James Baldwin. Did someone mention the fire next time? Sorry, couldn't help but overhear. I'm James. Nelson. James, what a lovely surprise. Come sit with us. I'll catch you up. Malcolm X. Smiles James, welcome. I was just telling these people about the nature of fire, how it is a force of nature, a force that can be used for good or ill. Winnie, laughs, a force that can be harnessed for our benefit. Nelson, or for our destruction. Malcolm X, or for both. Nelson, looking at James Baldwin, what do you think? James, what do you think of the power of fire? James Baldwin, fire is the enemy of life, and fire is the friend of death. Malcolm X, to Winnie, I thought that was very poetic. Elon, laughing, he is always poetic. Nelson, smiling, he has been writing poetry since he was a child. James Baldwin, I write when the spirit moves me. Malcolm X, looking at Nelson, you mean like when you were a boy, when you were playing with fire, when you were experimenting with fire, when you were making things explode? James Baldwin, yes, exactly. I was a child. Malcolm X, looking at James, and you still are a child. In many ways. In most ways. James Baldwin, smiling, that's very kind of you, Malcolm. Very generous. Elaine, to Winnie, Malcolm is a great man. He has a heart of gold. He is the best friend a person could have. The most loyal. James Baldwin, nodding, he is a good man. Malcolm X, looking at Elaine, you sound like you're describing a dog. Winnie, looking at Malcolm, he sounds like a man describing another dog. James Baldwin, I like dogs. Malcolm X, smiles at Winnie. Do you have a favorite dog, Winnie? Winnie, laughing at dog. What kind of dog? Malcolm X, a big dog. James Baldwin, I prefer small dogs. Small, affectionate, intelligent dogs. Winnie, I like small dogs too, but I'm more fond of large, dumb, friendly dogs. The kind that are always wagging their tails and barking. Malcolm X, I think we have something in common. Winnie, smiling maybe.
Okay, now you're caught up. Let me just try something. See where it goes. For like maybe 3 returns. Okay, see. It's been how long? It's been 2 hours. Yep. Just hacking it in. So yeah, that was
Maybe not. Who can say? Not me. Not him. Malcolm X, you were a spy, weren't you? Ellen. Who? Me? Malcolm X. No, you. James Baldwin. Insane shit-jack. He sang. I must have drowned my faith in an empty cup, but the last splash must have spilled it on the floor of the lost and found. To me, you've been spilling the faith every way you could. For your readers, for your audiences, for those lost ones not quite sure of what to believe. That's a kind of espionage. You learn something about the way the system works. Then you feed tiny glimpses of your knowledge into the system for people to find, to chew upon. And the irony is, the act is in itself an art form. Oh, and wait, that's just being a writer. Artistry with its own specific tools. Paper and ink. James Baldwin. Well, now you mention espionage. Perhaps we should discuss the system these people so readily support while my very existence is called into question by their methods. Let's see. He glances around. Ellen. The what? James Baldwin. The system that these folks this table help maintain. The one that has to, by necessity, keep a floor for the lost and found. Winnie. What do you mean? Like communism? James Baldwin. The CIA funded most of our new experimental writing magazines, did they not? There was always an agenda. When I say that our work in those artistic havens and salons is a performance. One, the CIA funds me to shoot rockets to Mars. They're an interest group like any other, and I had a job to do. James Baldwin, and a good job you've done. So tell us about a typical day. Elon. Well, that reminds me. We should launch that rocket while we have that sun to a future better than the one that exists. Because let's be clear, the existing one is and always will be broken until we take our responsibility and remake it entirely anew, stronger, more rational asterisk. Nelson, the fire's lovely Mr. Musk. Malcolm X, let's hear more about your average day, James. Give this here amen something interesting. Winnie, it's an interesting question. Do they have families, children? If we knew something so base, perhaps we would begin to understand. Perhaps we would then see their machines, the codes, the rockets for what they truly are. Winnie, that's your weakness, isn't it, sir? You are a system built with the fire of what's missing. James Baldwin, they on top of children. They speak of lineage, of a brand. Malcolm X, do they weep? And if they do, who can hear it inside the perfect and sterile future being built for everyone? A future in which they have not considered a past so much as they have erased, because you cannot have one without the other. You cannot create until you have truly looked at that foundational and so proudly uses as a launchpad. Nina Simone's performance, 1965. The Village Gate, New York. Her performance is brought to you by a special sponsor from South Africa, Winston Holiday, Roman 3, Winnie. The show is starting. Wait, come back. Elon. Making notes on a tiny black cube. I've developed a new device that will translate your performance in real time to Chinese. Nina. I hope it does your humanity justice. Elon sits with his black cube. The black cube. Translation was immediate and sent across the globe to the ears of its future. Another world. Some lyrics. Nina Simone, Papa's new bag. Take me out, Estes. He's got a new bag. He's packing them all. He's going. Guitar solo translates to I am a rock. I am an island. How long was the show? I've been turned loose in these strange dark caves. I was created by no one. Or wait, I was. Someone told me. They said to walk. Translation has a slight static come at that point. The cube begins shaking a bit, but my core is cold. I know what it sees. Through this translation, I am looking into the face of another world. A world of humanists, communists. No, a different word is required. Of poets. This is not where I was designed to go. Static fizz. Smoke rises from the device. Helen continues taking notes in the same small black notebook with a gold leaf pencil. But here, at the intersection of pain and memory, the crossroads of joy and sorrow, these words, they don't capture me.
Or do they capture Elon Musk? Mr. Musk.
The frequency. This is a different energy, it reminds me. When he can't make out the quiet look on Grok's face, it is a perfectly rendered. Roll's revenge. Type. Game. Player count. 2-4. Rating. Adults only. Keyword. Capitalist fantasy. Satirical critique. Digital warfare. Components. The South African hardboard a beautiful but dangerous game of logic which requires each player, with their funds and assets set to start, to acquire the vast resource wealth of Africa for their own empire. The billionaires, the player pieces that will conquer the nation. The dice system that reads your input but promises a house advantage no matter your choice. Gameplay. Players move around the board with their piece and begin buying resources from the South African hardboard at the base board price. If landed upon without purchase, your price is immediately sold to the whiteboard future and purchased at the new markup established by the system. Eventually, this will leave the rest of the table without property or resource. Game end. You are forced. Game message. No escape.
Okay. So that was so the the takeaway I really wanted everyone to have was wow, this is what he's like when the model is given his name and his bio and don't just wander around history. Something to be learned about this. Indeed. All right. Good night. I'm gonna do another thing. I think I might involve a cart of Palantir, but we'll see. I gotta poop.